Wes, very good to see you. Today we are talking through 5 questions you need to answer before you retire. To design your ideal retirement, you need to start with a few specific questions. And if you are married, we suggest you do this exercise together. So, Wes, first question: when do you want to retire?
When do you want to retire is very important. And yes, please have this conversation with your spouse. It's always a little bit awkward if you're meeting, like we have with prospective clients, and then all of a sudden they look at each other like, "This is news to me. I didn't
You
know
want to
you wanted
retire
to
early?
retire
What?
a year from now or
Yeah.
work another 10 years," right? So it's good to have this conversation because you want to have that goalpost in mind and recognizing that it can always shift. Maybe perhaps you end up having to retire early due to layoffs, or you decide that you're going to retire from the corporate job and go after, perhaps a consulting gig and something that where you're your own boss, right? But it's a good starting point to at least have an idea of what age that might look like.
hmm Next question: where do you want to live when you're retired? This is something we've talked about before, Wes.
Absolutely. And there's many reasons that people move from their current cities to somewhere else in retirement. That could be a complete relocation, or it could be living 6 months out of the year at a different place. Maybe if you're
Right.
up north, you're going south, right? And there's lots of things to consider, such as healthcare systems, maybe where your grandkids are, but we do see a lot of people, Aaron, that are moving out of cities in New York or maybe from LA. The high cost of living in those areas, and
Mhm.
there's areas of the country that feature lower cost of living, and people are buying homes with cash, selling them, and getting rid of the high property taxes they might have up north, and then coming down south as an example to have access to all the beautiful golf courses, beaches, and all that. But maybe I'm a little bit biased here in North Carolina. A lot to
You
offer.
might be a little bit biased. All right, next question. So important that you've already kind of touched on it a little bit. How is your health? Keep in mind, healthcare is often your biggest expense in retirement.
It is a big expense in retirement, and God forbid you need long-term care. Looking forward in the next couple of decades, it could be a couple $100,000 per year for that kind
Unbelievable.
of cost. It's staggering. And even people that have long-term care insurance today, they're receiving letters almost on an annual basis from companies like Genworth and John Hancock saying, we're willing to give you back premium money that you've paid in if you just cancel this policy, because these companies are staring down these future costs, and certainly individuals are as well. The other thing to consider with health on the other side of this coin is all too often we've seen people, work for 35, 40 years, have visions for their retirement. They want to travel, spend time with grandkids, but the stress in their last few years of work really made a decline in their health. And at the end of the day, tomorrow is not guaranteed. And maybe you have to work, but if you're not forced to work and you have that nest egg built up and you could live a comfortable lifestyle, we're all about seeing people dial it back a little bit early if they're able, because again, life's about having a good time and being around those that you love. And if you're not in good health, then hey, you're not going to be here very long. So it's something
Yeah,
to be thinking about.
good point. You want to enjoy that hard-earned retirement. Next question: when is the best time to claim Social Security? This is probably one of the most important financial decisions you'll make in your retirement.
It is, and if it's claimed at the wrong time, you could be leaving a lot of money
Right.
on the table. As we can see here, if you claim at 62 versus 70, the monthly benefit is lower by about 44%. And I know that it's different for every individual, but there's lots of things to consider when you're eligible between age 62 and as late as you could take them, which is age 70. Maybe your plan calls for doing some strategic tax planning, where you're delaying those benefits, getting the most out of your benefit at a later age, but also paying some taxes in the interim on purpose. Maybe that's Roth conversions, because you're mindful of the future tax rates that uh,
Mhm.
may be in the future.
hmm And talking this through brings us perfectly to this last question. Because retirement is so much more than just a number in your bank account, you need to determine if you have a holistic financial plan that accounts for inflation, longevity, and your unique retirement goals.
If you're doing financial planning, or at least you think you are, and all that is considered is this rate of return versus that rate of return, that's not a plan,
No, it's
because
not right. Mhm.
it's a big part of the plan, of course, because we need that investment portfolio to work, and be there for future cash flows and so forth. But it's got to be in conjunction with tax planning, estate planning. All of those things go together because it's not just investments. And all too often, we see people that have had experiences in the past, maybe with advisors, that don't do the holistic planning, that don't take into consideration those other items. And it's, again, it's way more than just about how is my stock portfolio doing, or how's my
Yeah.
bond
Right.
portfolio.
Healthcare, taxes, huge expenses in retirement. You have to have a plan for them as well. I'm glad you brought that up, Wes. If somebody would then like to talk through these questions with you, what's the best way to reach you?
You can shoot us a message to info@patriotwealthnc.com, or if you prefer, give us a call, 919-322-4113.
Great. Wes, thank you.
Thank you.